Hi everyone, this is Mr. Ree. Just going to show a little demo today. Basically, we are going to be creating this as part of my demo, and it is something called slab construction, where you see the flat pieces here, and then some hand shaping to create this version of a rose. All you'll need is clay, a water source, some basic tools like this will work, toothpick, knife. This called slip, which is clay with a lot of water added to it, and it becomes like glue for clay, and a rolling pin. So first thing is, you'll have like a piece of clay, and you can do this all at your table, but this table here is covered with fabric, so it's a little bit more ideal. When you roll with clay, always roll both ways and then flip it like a burger. Because if you don't, if you only just keep rolling it on one side, it'll get stuck to the table really badly. And I'm trying to keep even pressure. You don't have to press hard, because you don't want to be like having at an angle, then it's going to get thicker on one side and thinner on the other. The reason I roll it both ways is so that it gets like nice, flat, and even. So we are kind of creating a version of this. So then I can just take, when the clay is soft, I can kind of take like my knife, and I don't have to press hard, and I want to make sure that like the blade is like straight. I don't want it to be like angled or tilted. I can just remove this excess. Okay. I'm just going to even this out a little bit. I'm actually going to make one side longer than the other. So again, make sure your blade is going vertical. Okay. So then I have this. Now typically, this is what's called a slab. Okay. And what we're going to do is glue this onto here like that, but there's a process. Normally, this clay is actually still quite soft. Normally you want clay, when you glue clay parts, to be kind of like leather hard, meaning it's still wet, but it's got a little bit more stiffness to it, and it can hold its shape without like bending, because if I hold this, it'll start sagging. So usually you let it air dry to get it to like where it's leather hard, but if you don't always have time, I also have this clay that I've ground up into like a fine powder, and it'll kind of help speed dry it to like where it's almost leather hard, but it makes it a little bit firmer. It just kind of helps speed up the drying a little bit. And actually for like what we're making, which is kind of going to be like a memorial piece, like a tombstone, it kind of adds to the texture of it, so it kind of works out nicely. So it's a little bit stiffer. If you're going to use the powder, most definitely keep it here on this table. I mean, you can do this all at your table. It's covered with the fabric, so the clay won't stick. Whereas like on your table, if you're not careful, the clay can stick like really badly. Okay, so then I'm gonna glue this part onto here like this. Okay, I just want to make sure that it's nice, even, and flush. Okay. So better to join it here like this than to do it this way. Okay. So doing a method called slipping and scoring and slipping. So hang on. You can use almost anything as a clay tool. I just did this. So what I'm doing, this is called scoring, where I'm kind of lightly scratching up the surface. And I'm going to do it to like the point of contact too. Is my face in the shot?
No.
Good. Thank you. So this is called scoring, and then this is called slip. It's basically clay with a lot more water added to it, and it kind of looks like gray yogurt. So some people say you should put it on both sides, but if the clay's soft enough, you can actually just put it on one side. And I like to be kind of generous with it. Kind of glob it on there a little bit. Okay. And then I am going to line it up and carefully place it down. And I'm going to get like a lot of squish out, which is good. I want to be kind of careful of handling it because it's not quite leather hard yet. So if I squeeze and press too hard, it'll mess up the piece. So again, I'm just carefully pressing it down so I get a lot of squeeze out. Then I just wipe away the excess. Okay. And now we're at this stage. Okay. So you can take like soft clay in order to kind of do this rose. I'm just doing a simple version. Okay. But you can, if you spend more time with it, make it a bit more complex and elaborate. So that's another example. So usually have a water source. I usually like to kind of get like a small piece, spray it a few times, because you want this clay to be like soft. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Actually, rose petals are quite organic. So even something like this is fine, not too thick. Okay. But the trick is that the clay has to be like really soft. And then you're going to carefully start kind of rolling it, almost kind of like rolling like a little tortilla. So that's like the inner core. So I'm just kind of mushing in that water moisture because I do want this to be like soft. Yeah. So you kind of want it like this even thickness like all around. Okay. And then since the clay is soft, I can just carefully start wrapping it around. And then that becomes like another layer. So again, soft clay. Yeah, even if you go online and look up rose petals, you'll see that the shapes can be quite different. So again, I want to avoid coming up like too high or like too low. So you kind of keep it around the same, and usually you kind of want to overlap it like where it's kind of coming together like that. Yeah, because I don't want to start on this side and like keep building it. You could, but I like to keep it a little bit more random.
Oh my god, I'm sorry, Mr.
Don't worry about it.
Oh my god.
Okay. By the way, smoking is bad for you.
No, I'm just sick. I don't know.
I know. Sorry to hear that. Okay. So again, you can start seeing it take the semblance of a rose, and I'll just add, I might add like a couple, 2 or 3 more layers, but for the sake of this video, I'll just make this the last one, and then I'll show you kind of like how I do the leaf. And there are different techniques for making roses. Some people might use like a roller, some people like to use their hand. So this last one, I'm gonna kind of put it around like that. And then you can, like with the outer leaves, you can kind of carefully curl them over. And then you've got like your basic rose there. To do the leaf, excuse me. To do the leaf, you want it kind of thicker than the petal, and you kind of have this. This is a method that I use. So a lot of times, like if you press on one side, you should have like support like on the other side. So I'm just kind of shaping it so it looks kind of leafy. And then I like using my fingernail, okay, to kind of like dig into it. And it's just gliding on the back surface of like my nail. This is just my technique. Some people just kind of draw it on there, but this kind of creates like a more sculpted effect. Okay. Like that. And then I'll go towards like the top of the leaf and then do like the nail technique. And I have something that kind of looks like that. And then I'll just kind of move up a section. And I'm just really kind of like engraving and gliding on the back of the nail. And as I press like with my nail on this side, my finger is actually giving it support, because otherwise it's just, if I don't have my finger there, it's going to mash out funny. And I make sure that I go all the way to the end, and you start getting something that looks like that. And then I would do like the same for the other side. So normally I would make 2 of these. So then whenever you join pieces, wherever it makes contact, like at the bottom here to like here, you gotta like rough up the surface. This is called scoring, and again, wherever it makes contact. So if it were contacting on this like back wall, I'd want to score back here too. Okay, so again, now I'm going to use like some of that slip and carefully put it down. And just being careful like how I press into it, because I don't want to like squeeze and damage the piece. And then I have like a good join. I can then take like a brush to kind of clear away that extra slip. And then naturally I would glue like the other pieces so that you'd have a piece similar to this. And that's it. Thank you.